I never thought a simple job ad would change my life forever. But here I am, sitting in my dimly lit room at 3 a.m., afraid to close my eyes, jumping at every creak and groan of the house settling. It all started with that stupid ad in the local newspaper. Night shift attendant needed at Twilight gas station. Competitive pay, flexible hours. Must be able to follow instructions precisely. Apply in person. I was desperate for a job. My parents had been on my case for weeks about getting some work experience before heading off to college in the fall. They kept saying things like, "It'll teach you responsibility," and "You need to learn the value of hard work." I figured a night shift would be perfect. I could work while everyone else was asleep and still have my days free to hang out with friends and enjoy my last summer before college. Plus, how hard could it be to run a gas station at night? I imagined it would be mostly quiet, with the occasional late-night traveler stopping for gas or snacks. Maybe I'd even have time to study or catch up on some reading during slow periods. It seemed like the ideal gig for an 18-year-old looking to make some quick cash. The Twilight gas station was on the outskirts of our small town, right where the suburbs gave way to dense forest. I'd driven past it countless times, but had never actually stopped there. It always seemed a bit run down and old-fashioned compared to the shiny new chain stations closer to the center of town. When I showed up to apply, the manager, Mr. Thompson, seemed normal enough at first glance. He was a middle-aged guy with graying hair and a permanent frown etched into his face. His eyes, though, there was something off about them. They seemed too alert, too intense, like he was constantly on edge. He barely glanced at my application before hiring me on the spot. I should have found that strange, but at the time, I was just relieved to have landed the job so easily. "You start tonight," he said, his voice gruff and no nonsense. He handed me a set of keys and a folded piece of paper. "Follow these rules exactly, and you'll do fine." I opened the paper, expecting to see standard stuff like, "Don't give out free snacks," or "Always count the register." Instead, I found this. 1. Do not leave the store between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. for any reason. 2. If you hear knocking on the windows after midnight, ignore it. Do not look outside. 3. The phone will ring at 2:15 a.m. Answer it, but do not speak. Listen for exactly 30 seconds, then hang up. 4. If a customer comes in wearing all red, do not look them in the eye. Ring up their items as normal, but do not accept cash from them. 5. The bathroom door must remain locked at all times. If you hear sounds coming from inside, do not investigate. 6. At 3:33 a.m., turn off all the lights for exactly 60 seconds. Do not move during this time. 7. If you see a black dog in the parking lot, close all the blinds immediately and recite the Lord's Prayer 3 times. 8. The coffee machine will turn on by itself at 4 a.m. Let it run until it stops on its own. Do not drink the coffee it makes. 9. If a customer asks for something from the back room, politely refuse and suggest they try another gas station. At 5:55 a.m., place a single penny on the counter. It will be gone by 6 a.m. If it isn't, call the emergency number immediately. I laughed nervously, thinking it was some kind of elaborate joke for the new guy. But Mr. Thompson's face remained dead serious, not even a hint of a smile. "Kid, I need you to understand something," he said, his voice low and gravelly. "These rules aren't suggestions. They're for your safety and the safety of everyone in this town. Break them at your own risk." I nodded, still not fully believing it. But something in his eyes made me uneasy. It was like he was silently pleading with me to take this seriously. As he turned to leave, he paused at the door and looked back at me one last time. "Oh, and one more thing," he added, his voice barely above a whisper. "Whatever you do, don't fall asleep." With that ominous warning, he was gone, leaving me alone in the flickering fluorescent light of the gas station. I spent the next few hours before my shift trying to convince myself that it was all just an elaborate hazing ritual. Maybe Mr. Thompson was just trying to scare me to see if I could handle the job. But no matter how much I tried to rationalize it, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled in the pit of my stomach. As I drove to the gas station that night, the world seemed different somehow. The familiar streets of our small town felt alien and threatening in the darkness. Shadows seemed to move in my peripheral vision. And more than once, I could have sworn I saw something darting across the road just ahead of my headlights. I arrived at the Twilight gas station a few minutes before 10 p.m. The night was unusually quiet, no crickets chirping, no distant sound of traffic, just an eerie, oppressive silence that seemed to press in from all sides. Mr. Thompson was waiting for me, his face grim. He gave me a quick rundown of the basics, how to work the register, where the supplies were kept, emergency procedures. But he kept glancing at his watch, as if he couldn't wait to leave. "Remember the rules," he said as he headed for the door. "No matter what happens, no matter what you see or hear, follow the rules." And then I was alone. That first night was quiet, almost boring. I kept expecting something weird to happen, but it was just a normal shift. A few late-night customers buying snacks or gas, nothing out of the ordinary. I followed the rules anyway, figuring it was better safe than sorry. At 2:15 a.m., the phone rang. My heart pounding, I picked it up and listened. For 30 seconds, all I heard was static. When I hung up, I felt silly for being so nervous. 3:33 a.m. came and went. I turned off the lights, stood perfectly still in the darkness for a minute, then turned them back on. Nothing happened. At 4 a.m., the coffee machine did indeed turn on by itself, which was a bit creepy. But it just brewed a pot of coffee and shut off. I was tempted to try some. It smelled amazing. But I remembered the rule and resisted. When 5:55 a.m. rolled around, I placed a penny on the counter as instructed. At 6 a.m., it was gone. I hadn't seen anyone take it, hadn't heard the bell over the door chime. It had simply vanished. As I left that morning, I felt a mix of relief and disappointment. Relief that nothing truly terrifying had happened, but disappointment that it had all seemed so mundane. Maybe it really was just an elaborate joke after all. The second night was when things started to get strange. It was about 1:30 a.m., and I was restocking the chip aisle when I heard it. A soft, almost hesitant knocking on the front window. I froze, remembering rule number 2. The knocking came again, a little louder this time. My heart was pounding as I forced myself not to look. "It's just the wind," I muttered to myself, "or some drunk guy messing around." But the knocking continued, growing more insistent. It took every ounce of willpower I had not to turn and see what was causing it. The sound moved from window to window, circling the building. Sometimes it was a gentle tapping, other times it was a frantic pounding that made the glass rattle in its frame. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, it finally stopped. The silence that followed was almost worse than the knocking had been. I let out a shaky breath, realizing I'd been holding it. As I tried to calm down, the phone rang, making me jump. I glanced at the clock, 2:15 a.m. on the dot. With trembling hands, I picked up the receiver and listened. At first, there was only static, just like the night before. Then, I heard what sounded like whispering, too faint to make out the words. As the seconds ticked by, the whispers grew louder, more frantic. Just before I hung up, I could have sworn I heard my name. I spent the rest of that shift jumping at every little sound. When 6 a.m. finally rolled around, I practically ran out the door. I thought about quitting, I really did. But the pay was good, and a part of me was curious about what would happen next. Plus, I didn't want Mr. Thompson to think I couldn't handle it. So, I came back for a third night, and a fourth, and a fifth. The next few nights were relatively quiet. I followed the rules to the letter, turning off the lights at 3:33 a.m., ignoring the occasional knocking, and placing the penny on the counter at 5:55 a.m. But other strange things started happening too. Sometimes, late at night when the station was empty, I'd catch glimpses of movement out of the corner of my eye. When I'd turn to look, there would be nothing there. Other times, I'd be stocking shelves and turn around to find items rearranged or moved to different spots entirely. The bathroom was the worst. Even though I kept it locked as per the rules, I often heard noises coming from inside. Sometimes it sounded like running water or flushing toilets. Other times, other times it sounded like muffled screams or something large thrashing around in a confined space. It was about a week into the job when I had my first encounter with a red customer. It was a slow night, and I was half dozing behind the counter when the bell over the door chimed. I looked up and felt my blood run cold. The woman who walked in was dressed head to toe in crimson, red shoes, red dress, even a red hat perched on her head. As she approached the counter, I remembered the rule and quickly averted my eyes. "Good evening," she said, her voice oddly melodic. "I'd like to purchase these, please." She set a few items on the counter, a pack of gum, a lighter, and a magazine. With my eyes fixed firmly on the register, I rang her up. "That'll be $7.50, I said, my voice cracking slightly. "Oh dear," she replied. "I only have cash. Is that a problem?" I swallowed hard. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we can't accept cash at the moment. Our system is down. Maybe you could try another gas station?" There was a long pause. I could feel her staring at me, but I kept my eyes down. "Very well," she finally said. "I suppose I'll have to come back another time." As she turned to leave, I made the mistake of glancing up. For just a split second, our eyes met. Hers were completely black, like empty voids. I felt a chill run down my spine, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. The bell chimed again as she left, and I collapsed against the counter, gasping for air. It took me several minutes to calm down enough to stand up straight. The rest of that shift was a blur of anxiety and paranoia. Every sound made me flinch, and I kept expecting the red woman to come back. When 6 a.m. finally came, I was exhausted and on edge. As I was leaving, Mr. Thompson arrived to take over. He took one look at me and frowned. "You saw something, didn't you?" he asked. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. He sighed heavily. "Look, kid, I know it's tough, but you're doing good. Just keep following the rules and you'll be fine." I wanted to ask him so many questions. What was really going on here? Why were there so many strange rules? Who was the woman in red? But something in his expression told me he wouldn't, or couldn't, give me any answers. As the weeks went by, I settled into a routine of sorts. The weird events became almost normal, in a twisted way. I got used to the nightly phone call, the mysterious coffee machine, even the occasional sounds from the locked bathroom. But then came the night that changed everything. It started off normally enough. I was about halfway through my shift when a guy came in to buy some cigarettes. He seemed friendly, chatting about the weather and complaining about gas prices. As I was ringing him up, he glanced towards the back of the store. "Hey, you wouldn't happen to have any of those special energy drinks, would you?" he asked casually. "You know, the ones from the back room?" I froze, remembering rule number 9. "I'm sorry, sir," I said carefully. "We don't have a back room here. Maybe try the gas station down the road?" The man's friendly demeanor vanished in an instant. His eyes narrowed, and his voice dropped to a growl. "Don't lie to me, boy. I know you have them. Give me what I want, or things are going to get real unpleasant for you." My heart was racing. I tried to keep my voice steady as I repeated, "I'm sorry, but we don't have what you're looking for. I'm going to have to ask you to leave." For a moment, I thought he was going to attack me. But then, to my relief, he turned and stormed out of the store. As soon as he was gone, I let out a shaky breath and slumped against the counter. That's when I heard it, a low, rumbling growl coming from outside. I looked up and felt my blood turn to ice. There, in the parking lot, was an enormous black dog. Its eyes glowed red in the darkness, fixed directly on me. Panic seized me as I remembered rule number 7. I scrambled to close all the blinds, my hands shaking so badly I could barely manage it. As I drew the last blind, I heard scratching at the door. With my heart pounding in my ears, I started reciting the Lord's Prayer. "Our Father, who art in heaven." The scratching grew louder, more frantic. I could hear the dog snarling and barking, the sound muffled by the glass but still terrifying. "Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come." Thy will be done. There was a loud thud, like something heavy throwing itself against the door. I flinched but kept going. On earth as it is in heaven, give us this day our daily bread. The noises outside reached a fever pitch. It sounded like the dog was trying to tear the entire building apart. And forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Suddenly, everything went quiet. The silence was almost as terrifying as the noise had been. I finished the prayer 2 more times, my voice barely above a whisper. When I finally worked up the courage to peek out the window, the parking lot was empty. No sign of the dog, or anything else out of the ordinary. I spent the rest of that shift huddled behind the counter, jumping at every little sound. When 3:33 a.m. rolled around, I was almost grateful for the minute of darkness. At least then, I couldn't see anything that might be lurking in the shadows. As dawn approached, I started to relax a little. I'd made it through another night. I was placing the penny on the counter at 5:55 a.m. when I heard the bell over the door chime. I looked up, expecting to see Mr. Thompson arriving early. Instead, I saw the man from earlier, the one who had asked about the back room. And he wasn't alone. With him was the woman in red and several other people, all with those same black, empty eyes. They filed into the store silently, surrounding the counter. We're closed, I stammered, even though it wasn't quite 6 a.m. yet. The man smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. Oh, I think you'll want to stay open for us, he said. We've come for what's in the back room, and this time we're not taking no for an answer. I glanced at the clock. 5:59 a.m. Just 1 more minute, and my shift would be over. Maybe Mr. Thompson would arrive and know what to do. There is no back room, I insisted, trying to keep my voice from shaking. Please, you need to leave. The woman in red stepped forward. We know there is, she said, her voice still musical but now with an undercurrent of menace. And we know you have the key. Give it to us, and we'll let you live. I shook my head, backing away until I hit the wall behind the counter. I don't have any key. I don't know what you're talking about. The group started to advance, their eyes gleaming in the fluorescent light. I could feel the panic rising in my chest, threatening to overwhelm me. My eyes darted around, looking for any means of escape, but I was cornered. Suddenly, I remembered something. The rules. They had kept me safe so far. Maybe they could save me now. With trembling hands, I reached for the light switch. The group paused, confused by my action. I took a deep breath and flipped the switch. Darkness engulfed the store. I held my breath, counting the seconds in my head. 1, 2, 3. I could hear them moving in the darkness, their footsteps echoing on the linoleum floor. Something brushed against my arm, and I had to bite my lip to keep from crying out. 58, 59, 60. I flipped the lights back on, blinking as my eyes adjusted to the sudden brightness. To my amazement, the store was empty. No sign of the menacing group. No sign that anyone had been there at all. Just as I was starting to think I had imagined the whole thing, I heard the bell over the door chime. Mr. Thompson walked in, looking as grim as ever. You did good, kid, he said, his voice gruff but with a hint of admiration. Not many make it this far. I had about 1,000,000 questions, but all I could manage was a weak, What were they? He shook his head. Trust me, you're better off not knowing. Go home, get some rest, and... He hesitated. Maybe start looking for a different job. This life, it's not for everyone. I nodded numbly and gathered my things. As I was leaving, Mr. Thompson called out, Oh, and kid? Whatever you do, don't take any job offers from them, no matter what they promise you. I shuddered at the thought and hurried out into the morning light. For the next few days, I tried to convince myself that it had all been some kind of stress-induced hallucination. Maybe I had fallen asleep on the job and had a vivid nightmare, but deep down, I knew it had been real. I didn't go back to the gas station. I couldn't bring myself to face whatever was waiting for me there, but that didn't mean it was over. Strange things started happening at home. I'd wake up in the middle of the night to find all the lights in my room turned on. Sometimes I'd hear whispering coming from my closet, but when I looked inside, there was nothing there. One night, about a week after I quit the job, I woke up to find a penny on my nightstand. My blood ran cold as I remembered the last rule. At 5:55 a.m., place a single penny on the counter. It will be gone by 6 a.m. If it isn't, call the emergency number immediately. I glanced at my alarm clock, 5:54 a.m. With shaking hands, I picked up the penny and placed it on my desk. Then I sat on the edge of my bed, watching and waiting. 5:55 a.m. came and went. The penny didn't move. At 5:59, I started to relax. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe I had left the penny there myself and forgotten about it. Then, just as the clock ticked over to 6 a.m., I heard it. A soft knock at my bedroom window. I froze, remembering the second rule from the gas station. If you hear knocking on the windows after midnight, ignore it. Do not look outside. The knocking came again, more insistent this time. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to block it out. That's when I heard the voice. It was Mr. Thompson's, but there was something wrong with it. It sounded distorted somehow. "Kid," the voice said, "we need to talk. There's been a change in management at the gas station. We've got an opening for assistant manager. The pay's good, and the benefits, well, let's just say they're out of this world." I could feel myself being drawn towards the window. Part of me wanted to look, to see if it really was Mr. Thompson out there. But a deeper, more primal part of me knew that whatever was outside my window, it wasn't human anymore. "All you have to do is say yes," the voice continued. "Say yes and all this can be over. No more fear, no more uncertainty. Just say yes." I clenched my fists, fighting against the urge to respond. "No," I whispered. "No, I don't want the job." There was a long pause. Then, the voice spoke again, all pretense of friendliness gone. "You can't run from this forever, kid. Sooner or later, you'll come back. They always do." I heard something scratching at the window, like claws on glass. Then silence. When I finally worked up the courage to open my eyes and look, the sun was rising. The penny was gone from my desk, and there were no marks on my window. But I knew it wasn't over. Whatever had been unleashed that night at the gas station, whatever dark forces were at work in our town, they weren't done with me yet. I sit here now, writing this all down in the hope that someone will believe me, in the hope that if I disappear, someone will know what happened. To whoever reads this, be careful of job offers that seem too good to be true. Be wary of places that operate only at night. And if you ever find yourself working at a gas station with a strange set of rules, follow them, no matter what. Because the things that lurk in the darkness, they're real. And they're always watching, always waiting for someone to slip up. As for me, I don't know how much longer I can keep running. Every night I hear the knocking. Every day I find a new penny. And every time I close my eyes, I see those empty black stares. I'm afraid to sleep. Afraid to stay awake. Afraid that one day I'll give in and say yes to whatever it is that's calling me. If you're reading this, please, be careful out there. And if you ever see a "Help Wanted" sign in the window of the Twilight gas station, keep driving. Don't look back. Because once you're in, there's no way out. Not really. The night shift never ends. I've been writing this account for days now, trying to get it all down before whatever's going to happen happens. I can feel them getting closer. The knocking is almost constant now, and I keep finding pennies everywhere. In my pockets, in my food, under my pillow when I wake up. Last night I dreamed I was back at the gas station. Everything was the same, but twisted somehow. The fluorescent lights flickered with a sickly green glow, and the shelves were stocked with products I'd never seen before, their labels written in languages that hurt my eyes to look at. Mr. Thompson was there, standing behind the counter. But when he turned to face me, his eyes were black voids, just like the others. "Welcome back," he said, his voice echoing unnaturally. Your shift is about to begin. I woke up in a cold sweat, my heart pounding. And for a moment, just a split second, I could have sworn I smelled the distinctive odor of the gas station, a mix of gasoline, stale coffee, and something else, something I could never quite identify. I don't know how much longer I can hold out. Part of me wants to run, to pack a bag and just drive until I run out of road. But another part of me knows it wouldn't matter. Whatever this is, wherever I go, it would find me. Sometimes, in my weaker moments, I find myself considering their offer. Would it really be so bad? To give in? To say yes? At least then the fear and uncertainty would be over. But then I remember the look in their eyes, that bottomless emptiness, and I know I can't. Whatever they're offering, the price is too high. So I'll keep fighting, keep resisting, for as long as I can. To whoever finds this, I don't know if I'll still be here when you read these words. If I'm not, if I've disappeared like I suspect so many others before me have, please, don't come looking for me. Don't try to investigate. Just get this story out there. Let people know the truth about what's happening in our quiet little town. And if you ever find yourself driving late at night and see a gas station on the outskirts of town, its lights a beacon in the darkness, keep driving. No matter how tired you are, no matter how badly you need gas or a cup of coffee, just keep going. Because the night shift is always hiring, and once you start, you can never truly leave. This is my last entry. I can hear knocking on my bedroom door now, even though I live alone. I don't know what I'll see when I open it, but I know I can't keep it closed forever. Whatever happens next, remember, the rules are there for a reason. Follow them no matter what. And whatever you do, don't fall asleep on the job.